Hi everybody, this is Professor West. Welcome to C# programming. I'm creating this series of C# tutorials to help my students as well as anybody else who wants to learn C# programming. This is not meant to replace the textbook completely. There's always going to be more information that you can find in the textbooks, but I'll get you a good start so that you'll be able to do a lot of programming on your own. So, to start with, I recommend using Microsoft Visual Studio as your IDE, your Integrated Development Environment, and you can download it for free from Microsoft. You can do a Google search for something like download Microsoft Visual Studio, and I believe they'll make you register by using your email address. But other than that, it's totally free, and once you have it, you can write all kinds of programs. So, if you don't have it, go get it, or you can use any other C# compiler that you'd like, but I'll be using Visual Studio for the duration of these videos. So, once you open it, you can see here there's some different options. I'm going to start off by showing you how to do a new project. You go to File, New, Project. That was simple enough. Now, here's what you see. On this new project window that pops up, you have a lot of different options. There's Visual C#, there's Visual Basic, Visual C++, F#, SQL. There's a bunch of different JavaScript. There's a lot of different options here. And depending on what you want to use, if I wanted to do C++, I'd click here, and here's my options. Since I want to do C#, I'm going to make sure that C# is highlighted. And out of all these options, I'm going to do a console app. Notice that there's two different types of console apps. There's core right here, and then there's framework right here. We're going to do a framework. Framework is for when you're doing a single program on a computer. Later, if you wanted to do one that might go across multiple platforms, you might want to do a core. But the simplest one is a framework, so that's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to click on it. Then I'm going to come down here at the bottom, and I'm going to name it. Typically, when you learn a new programming language, the first program that they always have you write is called the Hello World program, which is a very basic program that's just going to output the words Hello World. I'm going to name my program Hello World, and I've already been playing around with it, so I already have a Hello World 1, so I'm going to put Hello World 2 for mine. Notice, as I change the name, the solution name changes the same. These two have to be the same. At this point, you can click the Browse button and a dialog box will appear. And it'll let you go through and tell it where you want to save your program. This is where I've been saving some of my test programs, so I'm just going to leave it there. But you can choose any place you want as long as it's someplace you'll be able to find later. And click the OK button. When you do this, the program appears already. There's a few lines written for you. Now, before we get to this, sometimes something else will be clicked over here in the Solution Explorer. If so, you'll need to click the program.cs. That's our code file. If your Solution Explorer, let's see, oops, I accidentally closed my Solution Explorer. Now what do I do? You can go to View, Solution Explorer, and it brings it right back. So if you accidentally close it out or whatever, there you go. And down here's some properties. We'll get to those later. But for now, this is the main window that we're going to need, and this is our code window. So, what's going on here in the code window? This is very important. Every program you write, especially in these tutorials, you're going to start off with this. So, you need to know what's going on. First, we have these few lines at the top that start with the word using. These are system files. There's commands in these files that are already written so you don't have to write them, so that you can just use the command and it'll understand it. They're grayed out right now, meaning that they're not as bright as the rest of them, because we haven't actually used any of the commands in these folders. So if we were to build the program right now, these would be excluded because it would just waste space to add that much extra stuff. So as we begin using them, you'll notice that some of them will start to light up. Here's our namespace, and this is an open brace, and this is the closed brace that goes with it. Everything between these two braces is part of this namespace. So all of this stuff here is part of this namespace. Then we have a class. This class is called program. This namespace was called Hello World 2. This class is called Program. Again, here's an open brace and a close brace, and everything within it is part of this program. Part of this class, rather, called Program. And then we have our main function. Static void main right here. Everything inside these braces are part of the main function. Now, this is important because when this program starts running, it's immediately going to look for the main function, and that's going to be the starting point where it starts running. We call it the entry point, but it's like saying, hey, this is where we're going to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go after this first brace, and I'm just going to hit enter a few times. This is going to give me some room because all of the code that I write is going to go right here. In fact, for the first 3 or 4 tutorials that I do, every bit of code that we write will be in this area. So this is where we'll be starting from, and this is where you'll need to be able to get to in order to start these programs. Now, there's just a couple other things I want to mention real quick. Once we start writing a program, we're going to do something. No, you know what? I'll get to comments in just a minute. First, let's actually write some code. I'm sure you want to get to it as much as I do. So, come down here. It doesn't matter which line, as long as it's between these 2 braces. And it's anywhere down here. And let's start writing. Let's write the word console. C-O-N. Notice as I do, this box, it's called IntelliSense, pops up. And it's trying to figure out, right off the bat, what I want. Which command I want to use. When I get far enough, console shows up. Now that it's highlighted, I can use the up and down arrow key to move if I want. But when it's on the one I want, I just hit the enter key and it puts it up. Notice it capitalized it for me and everything. Console is one of the commands that we can use. Notice when I did that, the using system is no longer grayed out. It's now active because the console command is in the using system folder. So, along with the console command, I'm going to hit a period, and all of these options come up because these are all part of the console. I want to use the right line, so WR, and there I go. I can move down to right line and hit enter. Now, what a right line statement does is it tells it simply to output whatever comes next on the line for the user to see. So, don't worry about that for now. We'll see it in just a second. Now we need to open parentheses, and notice when I put an open parentheses, it automatically put the closed parentheses also. When I push my quotes now, it's going to do the same thing. I put one, and it put the closing one for me also. Because every time you have an open, you have to have a close. And for a long time, people in different programming languages would accidentally forget to do one or the other. And so part of C#, they decided to fix that so that it's no longer an issue. Whatever I type between these quotes is going to appear on the screen. So, for now, hello world, exclamation point, exclamation point, how are you? Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Okay. And then I'm going to come to the end of this line, and I'm going to put a semicolon. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit the save button, which is right here. We have a saying in the programming world, save early and save often. That's because you don't want to lose all of your work. So I recommend saving at least every 5 minutes or so. And now that we've saved it, we're going to hit the start button here, this little green triangle, and it's going to run the program. And watch what happens. Oh, my console window came up. That was the black window you saw, and then it went away really quickly. So why did it do that? Very simply put, it ran this line which said to say hello world, how are you? And then it was finished, so it exited. So what I have to do now is I have to add a couple lines to force that window to stay open. To do so, I'm going to start with the console command. Right line. And I'm going to say something like press any key to exit. You can say whatever you want. This is what I'm saying. Semicolon. And then I'm going to do a console dot read key. I'm going to add parentheses at the end and a semicolon. So what's going to happen here is the line press any key to exit is going to appear after this line appears. When it starts running, it's going to start at main. It's going to run this first line. It's going to output these words. And it's going to run the second line and output these words. And then it's just going to sit there and wait until I press some key. So let's save and run. hello world, how are you? And press any key to exit. Now, it doesn't matter what key I press. I'll press the letter K. Why not? And it exited. Now, there's a few things we can do to make it a little more readable. Notice those two lines, even though I had a lot of space here, we're still right on top of each other. So I can do this. I could say console dot writeline quote. Now that would add one line between these two. This would be the same as just hitting the enter key right now. It would just move it down one line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this because typing it several times is annoying. And I'm going to paste. Oops. I can't do that. What was I thinking? I have to do a new line because a semicolon ends the line of code. So that wouldn't work. But now that it's on new lines, when I hit the save button and run it, now notice that it moved it down. It moved the last line down several. Each time it came across the console write line, it moved it down one line. So blah, 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 down several. And now I press the key. There's another way to do this that would take a lot less writing. And that is to use a simple command. Inside the quotes, before that closing quote, I'm going to put a backslash and an N. That's the same as hitting the enter key. So that would add one line. Another line, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Why not? As many lines as I want, as long as it's inside that quote. I'm going to hit the run button. And notice that it pushed it down pretty far. So my hello world, how are you is right there at the top. And if I wanted, I can do that anywhere. I could do it at the beginning. That'll add a few lines. And now my hello world's no longer at the very top. I could put it between some. Let's say I want this to be the next line instead of on the same line. Now it comes up. Hello world, how are you? You can do anything you want. You have to play around with it some and figure out how you want your stuff to appear. So, there's one more thing. I mentioned comments a few moments ago, and now it's time to actually show you. A comment is something that you will see, but the program will completely ignore. You start by putting 2 forward slashes. Notice they turn green. Everything that I put after these 2 slashes on this same line will be completely ignored by the computer. So this is the entry point for the main. So I'm going to put open brace for the main function. And down here, this is the corresponding brace. I'm going to put closing brace for the main function. Now, what happens is the computer completely ignores these things that are in green. But when I look at it, I realize, oh, this one's the closing brace for the main function, not this one or this one. So this will help me. I'm also going to come here and I'm going to put something like this code will force the application window, if I can spell window, to remain open until a key is pressed. Now, again, the computer completely ignores this. This is just for me or for anybody else that's using my program. If somebody else comes in and starts writing my code or starts trying to add to my code, they don't have to look at it and go, oh, what's he trying to do here? Because my comment tells them what it's going to do. But when I run this program, notice you don't see any of that stuff that I just typed anywhere. It's all comments. It's all completely ignored by the computer. So that's pretty much all the basics, guys. There's one more way that you can do a comment. If you want to do several lines at one time, you could put a slash and an asterisk, and everything after that is going to be a comment until it comes to an asterisk and a slash. Now this stuff turned back black, but this is still green in the middle. All this is comments, and if I ran the program right now, these lines would be ignored, so the program would close immediately again. But I don't want to do that. I just wanted to show you. So that's it, guys. That's the very basics of how to write a program in C#. And there's not a whole lot to it as long as you understand that this line's going to output stuff, this line's going to accept some stuff. When we get into the next section, we'll start dealing with how to do better input and output. So I hope to see you there, and that's it.